While I was there, the deceased took the last breath. A scream was heard in the room, so strong and indescribable. The soul of the deceased came back for a moment. A 5-day-old baby, premature birth. I placed the baby in my palm. I dipped my finger into water because you cannot pour water directly. I washed even such a small baby who could fit into my hand. Another baby was 18 months old. He had fallen from the 4th-floor window. I called the autopsy place and said, "Please, if possible, stitch this baby nicely so the parents will not see him in a bad state and keep that memory." After washing the deceased, when it comes close to the shroud, I sometimes feel love for them. At that moment, the door opened slightly. One body had been left outside for a few days before being put into the morgue. The skin was badly damaged, so I wrapped the whole body with cotton. I could say I made her like Snow White. I just wanted the shroud to stay clean and the family not to see her that way. There was also a German funeral. She had accepted Islam later in life and had children. When she passed away, even the German nurses in the hospital said, "Did you spray something in this room?" When we enter here, the smell is so beautiful. What did you do? But in fact, we had done nothing. These are death experiences you will never hear anywhere else. My name is Emin Kaya. I am 54 years old, married, and a mother of 4 children. I am originally from Turkey, but have been living in Germany for many years. I have been doing this work for 24 years, since August 31st, 2001. I could say I have washed hundreds of funerals. My first funeral was my mother. That is why I remember the date so clearly. My mother was also a Gassalah and a midwife. When I was a child, I used to be scared when I saw her washing the dead. I always asked, "Mother, how can you wash dead people?" But when my mother passed away, such a courage came into me. I said, "I will wash my mother." That was how my courage began, and since that day, I have been washing the dead. It was my mother's body, my first funeral, and also my mother. The bond of a child to a mother needs no explanation. My bond with her was very strong. We are 4 siblings, and I am the youngest. My bond with her was even stronger than my siblings. Before she passed away, I was scared of this work. But after she passed, I felt courage. I told myself, "This is your mother. It is good for you to do the last duty." And with this motivation, I washed my mother. While washing, I experienced very different feelings. A beautiful smell spread around, and there was a smile on her face as I washed her. It gave peace to me and to those around. My mother was fair-skinned and blonde. Normally, her eyebrows and eyelashes were not very visible, but while washing her body, her eyebrows and eyelashes became clear as if painted with a pencil. Seeing this gave me great courage. My mother had migrated from Turkey to Germany and lived there for nearly 30 years, but she never removed her headscarf. She lived like that, and of course her funeral also became beautiful, spreading a good smell. I am thankful that I washed my mother, and she gave me courage. With her support, I have been doing this duty for 24 years. One of the funerals I will never forget, an 18-month-old baby who had fallen from the 4th floor. It was a Syrian family. They did not know Turkish or German. I did not know Arabic. But we had to communicate because the baby needed an autopsy. Even without words, I felt we could speak with our eyes. From our looks, we understood each other. It has been almost 8 years since that baby passed away, but I still cannot forget it. Allah helped us in that difficult moment. Even though we did not share a language, their looks told me everything. I called the hospital and said, "Please stitch the baby nicely, so when the parents see him, they will not keep a bad memory." When the funeral came, the father wanted to open the coffin. Normally, I open it first to check, then show the family. But the father said, "I will open it." There was some disagreement between us, but in the end, we did as he wanted. When he opened the coffin, the baby was lying there with a smile. So peaceful. The coffin was small and beautifully made. At that moment, I felt something in my heart. I fell in love with this funeral. My colleagues at the funeral company were surprised. The owner asked me, "Miss Kaya, how can you fall in love with a funeral?" I said, "How can a coffin be this beautiful? How can a baby's funeral be this beautiful?" I fell in love. That really came from my heart. The baby's mother and father also smiled and said, "You fell in love with our daughter and her coffin." That moment was both sad and very deep, and it stayed in my memory. That baby's funeral was one of the ones that touched me the most. At IT was another baby's funeral, and I experienced something that touched me deeply. After washing, we placed the baby in the coffin and were about to go for the burial. The baby had a 15-year-old brother. Normally, adults carry the coffin, or since we were in Germany, it is taken by car. But the brother said, "I will carry my sibling myself to the cemetery." That small coffin was carried by the brother alone from the washing place to the grave. As we walked behind him, seeing how he did not let go of his sibling affected me deeply. A 15-year-old boy did not let anyone else carry the coffin and took his sibling himself all the way there. Children's funerals are different. I think to myself, you were just born. Was there no place for you in this big world before you even saw life? But Allah gave them only that much life. Since I'm also a mother, it affects me more. Still, alhamdulillah, I can carry it psychologically. Allah gives me courage. Once they brought a baby who was only 5 days old, premature birth. Normally, babies do not need to be washed, but the mother insisted. The baby was so small he could fit into my palm. I dipped my finger into water and washed him while he was in my hand. I did not want to hurt the mother. He was so tiny. I can never forget it. There was one body with wounds on the skin and a smell that was very difficult for me because I wanted it to be clean after washing. When I touched the skin, I worried it might tear. I was very careful so that the shroud would stay clean and white. I wrapped almost the whole body in cotton to wash. I only wanted the family to remember their loved one in a clean way, not with those images. That is why I say I made her like Snow White. There was a German woman who had become Muslim, married a Muslim man, and had children. When she died, we went to wash her, and even before entering the washing room, in the hospital room itself, there was a beautiful smell. German nurses asked us, "Did you spray something in here? Why does it smell so nice?" But we had done nothing. The smell came directly from the body itself. Sometimes it happens, depending on the deeds of the person, that when we touch a body to turn it, it feels like they turn by themselves, as if they want to have their back washed, not being heavy for us. I have seen this kind of movement, but I have never experienced anything scary. After washing the bodies, when it comes close to shrouding, I sometimes feel love for them. One day I was called from another city. The hospital called me through the funeral company and said, "Mrs. Kaya, there is a funeral here that needs washing. Will you come?" I went, and there was nobody, absolutely no one. I said, "Subhanallah," not even the family of the deceased. They say the dead is a stranger. That day, I felt that loneliness on behalf of the deceased. Later, 3 women came. They were the daughters of the deceased. I never wash alone. I always need 1 or 2 helpers. I asked, "Is there anyone among you who can help me?" One of the daughters immediately said, "I will help." The second said, "I will try." The third said, "No, I am scared. I will never enter." I said, "Okay, as you wish. You can wait outside. Maybe you can come after the shrouding." She agreed. Then we washed, shrouded, and completed everything. After shrouding, I always open the face, so if anyone wants to see for farewell, they can. I was at the head of the body, and I was loving the deceased gently, saying, "Mashallah." I really mean it when I do that. At that moment, the door opened a little. The youngest daughter, who was already scared, saw me loving her mother, and that made her even more afraid. So she quickly closed the door. After we finished, I went outside, and she came to me and said, "Sister, can I ask you something?" I said, "Of course." She asked, "Did you really love my mother?" These are the kinds of memories that make us smile. When family members arrive, they throw themselves on the body. They say, "No, he didn't die." They pull the arm or leg. There's a lot of pulling and crying, loud voices, screams, and laments. It changes culturally. Once I was called to the hospital, and when I arrived, it was so crowded I could not see the patient. The doors, windows, and thick curtains were all closed. People were packed inside so much that the patient could not be seen. First, I tried to let some sunlight and air in. While I was there, the person took the last breath. As soon as they did, a scream came, so loud it was impossible to describe. The voice, the tone, it was overwhelming. The soul came back again, because when the soul is leaving, peace and silence are very important. If there is shouting, the soul is disturbed. After about 10 to 15 minutes, the nurse was with me and said, it looks like the time has come again to give the soul. What did I do? I said, no one will go against my word here now. I had to be a little strict. You will not raise your voices. I gathered the spouse and children around the patient. You can stay here. This is your husband, your father, but let him give his soul quietly. Do not disturb. That is how it happened. I was standing on one side, and the wife of the deceased was on the other side, directly in front of me. We looked into each other's eyes. At the moment he passed away, the woman looked at me as if she wanted to scream, saying with her eyes, "Please let me scream just once." Because in her culture, she needed to scream. I told her, "Wait until I allow it. You will not scream. You will not make a sound." They really listened to me. After quite a while, I said, "Okay, now you can cry. Let your voice out. But don't overdo it. Let me share a memory, not from a funeral, but from a seminar." The hospital called me and said, "Mrs. Kaya, can you give us a seminar open to the public?" I said okay and asked, "Do you have a doll, something big so I can show how to wash and shroud on it?" One of them said, "I have one. I will bring it." When I arrived, she said, I brought it, but I will not give it to you." I asked why. She said, "Because I will lie on the table myself. Show the washing and shrouding on me." She was not Muslim, and I was giving the seminar to Germans. But she insisted, so she lay on the table, and I explained everything from beginning to end. When it came to shrouding, I started but felt uneasy. I was afraid, what if she was affected and had a heart attack right there? I finished the shroud, tied the feet and the belt, leaving the head uncovered. But she said, "No, I want you to close it completely. Cover my face. Tie the head. I want the full experience." So I covered the head and tied it. The moment I closed it, I quickly opened it again because I was scared. But after, she said, I cannot explain this feeling to anyone. I found so much peace. Even though you cover my face and tied my head, I was completely at peace. I told her, "You felt peace, but I was the one who felt uneasy." Still, it was a beautiful moment that a torn body is not washed in the usual way. If I see that when I pour water or touch the skin with a cloth, the body will break apart or the skin will come off, that part is not washed. My husband was afraid once, in a murder case, a street fight. The person had been stabbed in the heart and throat with a knife. My husband said, "Everyone there has a knife. They are rough people. How will you go among them?" But alhamdulillah, I myself never faced such things. Sometimes family members of the deceased act strongly, saying, "This is our funeral. Who are you?" One elder once came toward me aggressively. Alhamdulillah, the owner of the funeral company was waiting by the door. He had a feeling and did not leave. When the family member came at me, the owner quickly stepped in and stood between us to protect me. There's a memory that always makes me smile. One morning I got a phone call. They said, "We have a funeral in Zolingen. Can you come and wash it?" I arrived at the mosque's washing room. It was in a place so quiet. The funeral company had placed the body in the coffin on the washing table and left for the consulate and population office. There was no community, no one at all. It felt like the coffin was looking at me, and I was looking at the coffin. I always smile when I remember this moment, but I could not take the body out of the coffin alone. I opened the lid, but couldn't do anything more. I kept going outside the mosque, hoping someone would come to help. After a while, I saw an old man sitting on a chair outside. I asked, "Uncle, where is the community? Isn't there anyone here?" He said, "No, daughter, nobody." I told him, "There's a body inside. I need to wash it, but I cannot do it alone." He said, "Let's wait, daughter." So we waited together. Then we saw a young man walking up the road. The old man called him. "Son, can you come here?" He came and said, "Of course, uncle. How can I help?" The old man said, "Inside there is a body. We need help to take it out of the coffin and place it on the washing table." The young man suddenly ran away. He said, "No, uncle, I have work. I am leaving." His way of running is still in my mind today. An elderly woman had passed away. Her family was very large. Children, brothers, sisters, everyone was there. According to Islamic rules, after death, the husband cannot see his wife's body because the marriage bond is finished. So only her son, brother, nephew, or grandson could see her. There was a boy around 10 to 12 years old, she was his mother. He was crying. I went to him and asked, "Why are you crying?" He said, "The one who died is my mother. I love her very much." I felt touched. I asked, "Do you want to see your mother?" He said, "I am scared." I told him, "If you want, give me your hand." He gave me his hand, and together we went to his mother. He touched her, kissed her, and suddenly he changed. It was like the boy grew into a young man at that moment. His courage grew, and he became mature in front of my eyes. After saying goodbye to his mother, he left the room. Another time, an old man caught my attention, walking around looking lost. I went to him and asked, "What is wrong?" He said, "Inside is my sister, but they told me I cannot see her because I am a man." I asked, "She's your sister?" He said yes. I told him, "Then you can see her." He asked, "Really? Are you serious?" I said yes. As her brother, it is allowed. He suddenly became so happy. He ran inside, hugged his sister, kissed her, and smelled her. He stayed beside her until everyone else left. Only then he left the room. After everyone left, I closed the door. That little boy ran to me, hugged me, and said, "Sister, thank you so much. You made me love my mother." Later the brother came and said, "Daughter, may Allah reward you. Without you, I would have remained longing for my sister. Thanks to you, I could see her. They told me I could not, but you allowed me, because brothers are not forbidden." Their thanks, the words "may Allah reward you," gave me happiness beyond measure. When I say I wash the body or I wash bodies, I'm a Gassalah, people react coldly. They step back or look strange. They ask, "How do you touch that body? Aren't you afraid?" This reaction, a shiver or a chill, happens every time. It has been like this for 24 years. There's a saying among our people, "You should fear the living, not the dead. The dead do nothing." First trust Allah, then the Gassalah must approach bodies with respect and care. Being a Gassalah means doing everything with awareness. The body is washed on the washing table, and when the body lies on the table, it must not be left naked. Even though we wash the body, it is covered with a cloth while washing. No matter how dead the person is, we do not leave them uncovered. That I had a friend of 40 years. We were very close. We shared everything. When I heard the news, I was taken to the hospital. My friend had always told me, "If I die before you, promise me you will wash me. Don't give me to anyone else." He wanted someone he knew to handle him. The next day, like nothing had happened to me the day before, I calmly and quietly washed him with prayers. I dressed him like a bride. I put a nice covering for the shroud, and then handed him to his family. Later his family said, "Amin, weren't you in the hospital just one day before? The next day you had the courage to get up and wash him like nothing happened." That memory I will never forget. There was a body that had been left outside the morgue and damaged from waiting. Not burned by fire, but rotted from being left. It was in a body bag and was almost full of maggots. Because they left it outside the morgue, the warm conditions caused wounds all over the body. Body fluids had collected in the bag, and when they touched the skin, they had caused further damage. Someone who lived a good life also has a beautiful death. Some smile. Some bodies feel like they help you, turning by themselves without you pushing them. A 26-year-old young woman once came. Even at 26, the good things she had done and the good life she had lived were clear on her face with a smile. Alhamdulillah, we are Muslims because we know the verse, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. We came from Allah, and we will return to Allah. If you ask me, "Mrs. Amin, are you ready?" No one can ever say I am ready. But we try as much as we can to live with our faith and represent our religion. May Allah make us among those who are ready and grant us death with Aman. Inshallah. I grew up here in Germany and completed my training as a doctor's assistant. Besides washing bodies, I also do psychological counseling and work as an emergency companion. When there is a death, suicide, or similar case, the police go first, then they call me. My job is to support the family psychologically and act as a bridge between the family and the authorities like the police or prosecutor. I also wrote a book, a poetry book. At around 1:30 at night, my phone rang. My phone is always on 24 hours because I work with the police. They said, "There's a case, a suicide." I got up and went. I was the one who gave the death news. That is one of my duties. The mother. It cannot be described how she reacted, how she broke down. This is something that cannot fit into words. I've been doing this since 2010, but that night was my heaviest night. Because from 1 in the morning until 6, I had to hold the mother. I had to keep her physically because she was throwing herself to the ground in pain. Holding that mother for hours. The next day, I felt my arms were sore. The child was 19 years old. What kind of world was it that he took his life? This is indescribable. But that mother situation still affects me. When I remember it, those hours come to my eyes again. I was so affected, I even wrote a poem about that child, that mother, that family. Inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi raji'un. Inshallah.